Hello and welcome. And today is that of the 10th day of May 2018, Crypto Day. Now, I didn't know it was Crypto Day on August the 3rd, 2016, although it wasn't for me. And even today is only Crypto Day for a few people. But I thought this would be a good time to do a review video as I review my first ever Bitcoin chart, done at 2:40 p.m. Eastern Time, August the 3rd. So let's start watching it. Hello and welcome. Today is Wednesday. It is the 3rd day of August 2016. My name is Derek, and I think this is the first ever Bitcoin chart that I've ever done. I'm going to do a couple charts, a daily and a bit more of a long-term one as well. I don't own Bitcoin, unlike gold and silver, but I do look at the price now and again, but I don't follow the charts much. I'm mainly just going to see what I notice within the chart analysis, which first is going to be volatility or the inconsistency of such. Looking at this blue 18 average band, I can see that when this was going sideways on the start during the month of May, that the band, the blue line, the top to bottom was a small in the gap in comparison to this bull market, which was a little bit bigger. Within this bull market, the interesting pattern is one, two, a third big one, four tests of this upper band, and the third one a very long test of such. And the support above the band, at the band, and above the band. Now, as I pause it at this time frame, I was interested in Bollinger Bands, but I didn't like how they were calculated because I thought resistance and support for them are oftentimes way too not good, way too low, way too high. So I came up with a mathematical formula based on volatility to make it so that when volatility gets big, you can see at the upper end how it went really fat up and down as far as its moves. So when the down move happened around June 18, June 25 timeframe, that the lower band ended up going lower. So it was something I had mathematically formulated. But for me, I stopped using them because I realized that it was pretty obvious to tell when markets were well above the 18 average, and thus, yeah, so the 18 average, just as I used it, I used to have the little dots in the middle to indicate the 18 average of closes. One thing you can notice that during the bull market, the 18 average of closes is very close to the 18 average of highs. You will also notice that same thing in declines as well, where they're close to the 18 average of lows. So then let's resume watching more of this video. Band and above the band. So that was an interesting pattern to say the least within it. Now the blue line for its volatility got really massive when you have 2 days of the price going from over 700 to over 500, or losing 25-30%. That's increasing the volatility. But before the most recent fall, look at how this thing just shrinks up before, boom, it falls like that. So a lot of volatility within this market. What I also notice is the trend reversals that I look for. That this was a beautiful bull market, as I was talking about, with the upper band being resistance and support as such. But for it to reverse, band needs to flatten out, establish a level of support, come back to the band, and this over qualifies, but it qualifies, of course. Large resistance within this band, and well, yesterday it broke out that support significantly, but I don't know how long it was lower than this. I haven't seen the 5-minute chart or anything like that to see the time in which it fell, but it could be a flash crash. Nonetheless, it has regained its level, and it's even in the 570-ish area as I'm doing this video. It's much later than 2:40 p.m. Eastern Time, so it's already had its move. So now it's very hard to use this to determine where any short-term movements are going to come, because the risk for going long is that it's already been up so much, and is this a dead cat bounce? And the risk for going short is that, is this going to be your typical failed breakdown, failed move? Oftentimes a failed move can create a fast move in the opposite direction. So, and even back then, I was talking about either or situation, failed move, fast move, opposite direction, all the stuff I'm talking about. It's the same stuff that I've learned for quite some time. And I've learned new stuff along the way, to say the least. But fast move to the upside, yeah, I think it had such occurrence. Let's continue on moving within this video. Another minute and 50 seconds to go. In the opposite direction. So a lot has been going on, but it seems as if within this chart, you're probably going to get a lot of these odd days where it gets really volatile. I haven't seen the historical daily charts, and I rarely ever do look at this, so I can't talk too much about it. I can look at the last 1,800 trading days, and that's what I'm going to do in here. And I mean, just basic stuff to point out. Uptrend going sideways for the last 3 or so years. That's mainly the trend. Sort of like the gold chart that I showed yesterday. As far as a reversal is concerned, established support. Well, it hasn't broken it yet, but it also hasn't came back up to this level. It's neutral, but the band is rising and it's above it. So it's neutral with an up bias, and a decent up bias to say the least, because its preceding trend was very much a nice bull market. I think what also is worth noting is where it is on the chart here, which is very close to these highs. And it's down half its value, which means that having 6, 10, 20x gains is definitely in the picture, but losing over 50%, even 75, 80 to 100%, is also a risk that is taken when you play this as well. So if you've got your food, you've got your gold, you got your silver, you got what you need to prepare for the worst of times, and you want to speculate a little bit, by all means, it's not the greatest of shockers if this thing is still going on in 5, 10 years from now, and the US currency and other fiat currencies have collapsed. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching this, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye. And when I look back at that video, and I even look further at this trend, this is what I would call in here. You see I was hugging the 18 average of highs, breaking out back to where it came from. And I mentioned how it lost half of its value from this high, barely descending down to this level, which I was stating like, oh yeah, 20x gain, easy. Well, the 20x gain was like 11, 12,000. So we could try like a 37x gain for what it ended up having towards this point. High risk, high reward. And people will always say the same thing, and they would have back then, man, Bitcoin, it's so risky. Yet you can always come back and say, Bitcoin, it's so rewardy. It was. It still is within that level. And I remember saying in one of my other videos shortly after this, there's only really two things that can happen when looking at this chart. And it's really an and/or situation. It's either going to go to nothing, which means it's going to break well below this low. This low is 200. And I'm still saying that for that number. Or it's got to go like way high. And it could go way high and then go way down again. And today, with prices at around 9,300, yeah, it's got to go way down or way high. And way high is really over 100,000. And I was saying before, it's gonna break 10,000, or it's gonna break down below 100. That's like a guarantee. It could do both, and if it does both, it'll break 10,000 first. Most likely, although you never know with these markets sometimes. I shouldn't have said that. No, of course, now I know in advance 10,000 came before 100.
But I thought it'd be interesting just to show the first video. Now let's go over the comments in which came from such. I see you. Oh, I have once awaiting review, but I see you have finally come around to covering Bitcoin. Nice change. Yeah, I didn't think I'd cover it and change it as much as it would, because I stated in this video, I didn't own any at the time. No, actually, I technically did. 0.00 something of a Bitcoin. That was just making a transaction before this, and that was what the market, like I got $10 in Bitcoin then, so I bought $10 worth of stuff, but the market had increased during the day, so I had like $1 worth, and then to this point I had like $2 or $3 worth, so it was like whatever $3 was worth back then. DaVinci J15, and I was thinking back in the day, like 2011, and I was in my head, I'm like, man, I should contact this guy, send him a message saying, I want to buy some Bitcoin off you. Can I send you some silver? Let's work out a deal. I can always say I wish I would have went ahead and done such, but I'm glad again that I got into Bitcoin. It almost makes more sense to do technical analysis on Bitcoin rather than that of gold and silver. We know how the metals are manipulated by the paper market. Harder to manipulate Bitcoin, unless of course you hack an exchange with kindergarten security, laugh out loud. Regardless, I enjoy your work. Gia, I mean, this is a name I haven't seen. Maybe you're still watching, maybe you have a different name. I don't recognize it. But I've went through so many transitions over the last 10 years. I can remember some of the names back in 2008. Marky Marcus is one example. Just trying to think of ones that don't exist anymore. Hard to remember, but in fact, I remember talking to Craig Grant in 2009, I think it was 2009, maybe 2010, early. Of course, we never talked anything about Bitcoin. I was in a very much of a spiritual awakening then, and he was pretty much as well. Living in the Caribbean somewhere. D. Rudder, thank you for the charts and analysis. I still get comments. Thank you very much now and again. Derek, I'm very happy that you're looking at crypto charts. You obviously had no idea of the reason of that sudden collapse. Bitfinex, an exchange based in Hong Kong, said it had been hacked and $72 million worth of Bitcoin stolen. Not surprised on that, Vet. No, I did not know. Thank you. So that was my reply back then. And then we have the dead cat bounce. It was more than such an then. Appears to be a calculated move by the criminals that organized and ran an exchange into the ground just as Bitcoin was getting ready for the next run. And thank you. I've enjoyed your straight-up analysis of a chart. You worked with the data without having to know all the details of Bitcoin, even though it doesn't seem to work with cryptos. It's a wild west, man. I don't know if you meant that the technical analysis doesn't work, because it sure as heck does. And you really don't need to know any of the fundamentals when you're dealing with the type of analysis that I've been covering on this channel for quite some time. It's all about the mathematical numbers. Only price pays, and the data. When I look at these charts, all of these indicators, the Fibonacci lines, the 18 average of highs, and in this case lows and closes. This is a running average. I do like running averages. I haven't figured it out on TradingView how to use them. I've seen Brian Shannon from alphatrends.net or alphatrends.com or whichever website he's using, where he uses the same TradingView as well, and he uses moving averages a lot differently than I do. But he likes to use the VWAPs, and I like VWAPs as well, or any type of running average from a key point. But I don't know how to do it on that webpage, and I wish I did. I've tried to figure it out, and I haven't yet. But they're cool indicators. But that's all based on price. Again, the 18 average based on price, the Fibonacci's based on price, and this upper and lower band that I made, it was based on price, but really it was based on the 18 average. And it was also based on this volatility stat that I came up with, which basically checked how its volatility was over the last 18 days. All right, then. Thank you for tuning in to a recap video. It's been almost 2 years since this point. And the price of Bitcoin, although some people say it's crashed really hard and it's bad times, well, it's up almost 20 times since this point. As I said it could do. I totally remember saying it. It was just a few minutes ago I remember hearing it. Bye-bye.